just start from the beginning. When the independent commission was approved and formed, talk to me just about at the time why it was important for an independent commission to be created.
So the commission was created via a proposition, Prop 8 in 2020. It's called the Voters First Act. It was supported by then Governor Schwarzenegger to take responsibility for creating for redistricting for state offices away from the legislature and give it to an independent commission. And then in 2010, the Congressional Voters First Act also added responsibility for drawing congressional districts to the commission. So, in Common Cause and the League of Women Voters were instrumental, in other organizations in writing those propositions.
So from that time, kind of talk about the process of once this, it's approved that this commission is going to happen. How are the members, how are they found, and what does that process look like for them to be approved and put on the commission?
Yeah, so I'll speak to the 2020 process, which I was involved in. There were advertisements sent out or advertisements on the radio and TV and in print requesting Californians apply. There were originally over 20,000 applicants submitted the initial application, which is a brief form. And then over 2,000 folks submitted supplemental applications that included 4 essays and fairly extensive background information. The state auditor is responsible for selecting the commissioners. They had 3 auditors work for over a year doing this process. They reviewed the initial 20,000 applications. Some folks didn't make the cut then. Then they reviewed all 2,000 plus final applications, narrowed it down over a number of meetings to 120. 60 Republicans, 60 Democrats, and 60 not in either of those, associated with either of those parties. Then they interviewed all 120, narrowed it down to another. Yeah, that's a good question. What was the final number? I can get that number for you. Narrowed it down to, I think, 60. Yeah, I think it was 60. Then the legislature got to cut, so it's 20 from each of those groups. I think the legislature got to cut 12 total from each of those groups. Then there was a ping pong ball exercise where they randomly drew 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats, and 2 from neither of those parties. That was the first 8, and then that first 8 chose the final 6 from the remaining pool.
Take me into some of these, the process, some of these meetings, the conversations between all of you. It sounds like from my reading, there's a lot of public input that takes place. You could speak a little bit to that. And then just, once you're actually in these meetings and you get all the public input, what are those conversations, obviously broadly speaking, without getting specific, but what do those conversations look like?
Yeah, so, the commission is required to get public input. And so we had a number of meetings to gather that public input. I mean, we were gathering public input the entire time. People were giving us input from day one. But we had specific meetings to gather public input. We focused on a variety of different areas of the state to give each area an opportunity to have their own meeting and provide input. Yeah, we had a couple meetings in Spanish to allow Spanish speaking Californians to have their input. So, a lot of public input, a lot of community of interest. There were a couple of different ways for folks to input maps that they'd like to see, whether the maps were of their community of interest or an entire district that they wanted to see drawn. So we got over 35,000 pieces of public input. And then there are 6 criteria that we had to follow when creating our maps. Number 1 was roughly equal population. Number 2 was compliance with the Voters' Right Act. Number 3 was contiguity. You can't the district has to be connected together. Then considering communities of interest and trying not to break up cities, counties, that kind of thing. Then geographically compact districts, which means we didn't want to we weren't supposed to be bypassing one area of population to go to another one. And then finally, nesting districts. You want to have ideally 2 assembly districts be in 1 Senate district, et cetera. So that was the criteria that we had to follow when mapping. So, when we finally did begin to do the mapping work, we first looked at the Voting Rights Act districts. We had an attorney and a analyst to help us look at that and figure out where we might need to draw districts to give underrepresented or historically underrepresented folks an opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice. So we went through that first, and looking at that along with the communities of interest, and deciding, how to begin drawing districts. And once we kind of settled in on that, then we looked at the rest of the state, and again, very much looked at the communities of interest, that input that we got from various areas of the state, and really tried to consider that when drawing the districts.
That's really interesting. Sounds difficult. Is it difficult? I mean, like, how challenging? Because you're following those 6 rules. You're trying to be equitable. You don't have a background in drawing maps, I assume. So, how did people pick it up at different speeds? Was it very complicated to do? Kind of walk me through that.
Well, we hired a firm of line drawers. I'm not sure what the formal term is, but we call them line drawers. And they had expertise in this, so they helped us along, but it was all based on our guidance and input. So yeah, no, none of us knew how to draw district maps. We had some instruction on that and training. Some of us dove in more deeply and downloaded the software and played with the software to learn how to use it. But it was really a matter of giving direction to our line drawing team. They would go away, draw maps based on that direction, and then we would iterate back and forth. And yeah, so it was difficult. It was 12-hour days, October, November, December of 2021. It was a lot of work.
Were there I don't want I mean, were there disagreements and again, not, you don't need to get specific, but were there disagreements, whether it doesn't even need to be party affiliation, but just in general between the 14 of you on, on what areas should be, who should be represented by what, like those types of like very specific arguments? Were there broader arguments? Was everybody agreeing with everybody? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, there are 2 other criteria that aren't they're like, okay, there are 2 other things we had to consider. One was we could not consider the residence location of a residence of an incumbent. We couldn't consider it. We didn't know. And the other thing is we could not draw districts for the purpose of favoring or discriminating against an incumbent, a political candidate, or a political party. Okay, so that was also part of the criteria. So politics is pretty much left, at the door of the room that we came in. Politics didn't really enter it. It was really focusing on the 6 criteria and especially on the communities of interest. So I wouldn't say, there were certainly not any political arguments. People just had different opinions of grouping different cities and areas together, but it was all very civil. I mean, we worked through it pretty well. I think, if you ever go back and look at any of the meeting videos, you'll see it was civil.
And are all the meeting videos like made public and they're online, or do you guys ever
Oh,
meet
they're
behind
all
closed
posted.
doors? They're all
Absolutely.
posted. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Have you been
And
to our website yet?
I've been to your website. I saw videos on there. I didn't realize I didn't know if you guys also did behind closed doors meetings along with the public ones as well.
Yeah, we did. We did closed session, but only for specific legal issues or personnel issues. I mean, we operate under Bagley-Keene rules. But all of our mapping discussions were in the open.
Got it. Okay, that's great. When for the maps to get approved, does it need to be unanimous? Does it need to be all 14 agreeing, or how does that work?
No, it needed to be, it needed to be a special vote. It needed 3 from each of the groups to approve it, but it was unanimous.
What did you find to be the biggest challenge as a member of doing this? I'm sure everybody had a different challenge. There were certain things here and there, but like you yourself personally going through this, what kind of kept you up at night? I don't know about keeping you up at night, but what maybe put you in a position where you were like, this specific thing is harder than I thought it would be?
Yeah, just
Or if nothing, that's okay too.
yeah, no, I mean it was all a challenge. I mean, the biggest challenge I think was just really keeping up with the public input in the mapping phase. Because like I said, I mean, we we were either meeting or working on it almost every day, October, November, December, and we were getting hundreds and hundreds of pieces of public input every day. Because when we were mapping, we'd focus on an area and work on those maps. And then the people who were watching or looking at the maps were providing input about, how they wanted to see us change what we were thinking of doing. And so just trying to keep up with the public input and keep all that, considered was definitely a challenge. I mean, we all worked very hard to do it.
And then how long in general is the process? When did it start and when did it officially, when was the last time where everything got approved?
Okay, so the commission was seated in August 25th or something like that of 2020. And we delivered the maps to the Secretary of State, I think it was December 27th, 21. So like 16 and a half months. But that you got to remember that was right in the middle of COVID. I went to Sacramento for my interview on March 5th of 2020. And on March 13th, the world shut down, right? So we conducted all of our meetings, nearly all of our meetings virtually until the mapping phase when we finally started getting together to work on it. So we had extra time. I mean, originally the maps were due in August, but we got extra time because the census was delayed by 4 months.
That's right. And then how do the terms work? So, you drew these maps and now they're the maps for this, obviously whatever happens coming up in November, but in general, these were the maps for the decade. Do you stay on the commission until the end of the decade? Does a new board come in? Like what does that look like?
Right. We remain on the commission until the first ping pong ball is picked in 2030.
And can you be on it again, or is it a one time deal?
I I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Are
not
you?
gonna I'm not gonna be on it again once is enough.
So now take me, past the maps. Generally speaking, is the reception been mostly like these are very fair maps. We're happy what the independent commission did. Is that generally when you talk to people, when you see kind of the reaction, is that generally the reception that you get?
So I'll just talk about the big picture, right? Our maps have gone through 2 election cycles, no lawsuits regarding the maps. And you can see in other states, many other states, that's not the case. But in this case, you know, no lawsuits at all. So I think that speaks for itself, right? That the maps, that the general perception is the maps were done according to the criteria and are fair. Um, I think, in general, the people who are aware of what we've done and what we did or believe that it's fair. I think, we get a, some specific feedback here and there that I don't appreciate that you put me in this district, but I understand, that it was a lot of work and you had to make the decisions you made. So
Okay.
in
Is there any
general, it's positive.
any other work that you guys do from now till the end of in 2030, or is now like what is being on the commission consist of when you're not in like a year where you're doing a map?
Right. So after we finished the maps, it was about a year and a half that we wound things down, got, captured all the information and wound things down. And then, after about 2023, things kind of settled down. I mean, the main thing that the commission would work on in after the maps is modifying the legislation that oversees the commission to make improvements and tweaks. We've had several several tweaks to the legislation go through, and then we what we would really like to do is engage with the auditor um, for the next, when they're preparing to select the next commission, to help work through the educational program, and help educate the auditors who are going to select the commissioners, and then work through the educational process for the next set of commissioners, so they can hit the ground running a little more smoothly.
And
Although we have very little budget, the
yeah, well,
problem
I was gonna
is
ask. So yeah, what's the budget?
we get like 180 grand a year. And, we'd asked for, I don't know, 200 and something thousand, so we could have a few meetings a year and continue to do this work. But we really have, just enough staffing to keep the boat afloat barely and have one meeting a year. And we're actually having that meeting on the 26th, just to kind of address the Prop 50 fallout we've had, and it's been a lot of fallout.
And these are unpaid? Are you guys paid at all, or is it all voluntary?
Yeah, we get $378 a day that we work for the commission.
It's pretty nice. Anything else that you feel like I should know? I feel like you covered everything pretty extensively, but anything else about the process that you think it would be beneficial for the viewers to know?
The 14 of us worked really hard for the people of California and did our best to be to follow the criteria and to be fair to the people, to take their input and really take it to heart and draw these maps. And I think if yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work and just the the fairness to the underlying intent, and was to make these maps, to consider the input and make them as fair as we could.